Welcome to the 8-minute tasting of Octomore. In this section, Bianca Espinoza from the Scotch Girl, Josh Peters from the Whiskey Jug, and me will take you through a flavor reveal party of the new Octomore 11 and Octomore 10 years for 8 minutes each. Octomore has hidden layers of complexity that relieve themselves as time progresses. During the tasting, we believe that every other minute will offer us new flavors and bring out joyful components. We'll be looking forward to enjoy all these flavors originating from the whiskey, high ppm level from the peat, Scottish and Islay barley, and different oak barrels that were used in production. Now, take a seat and take a sip from your Octomore and join us on our 8 minutes journeys with Octomore 11.1, Octomore 11.3, and Octomore 10 years. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh. I'm better known as the Whiskey Jug, and I have been nerding out about whiskey for well over a decade and writing about it for a little over 7 years. And yeah, I'm just very excited to be doing this. I love talking about whiskey. I love hosting tastings. I love doing things with our local group, the Southern California Whiskey Club, and I love everything to do with whiskey and the community that it can build and pull together, and the way that it can bring a whole very diverse cross-section of humanity together under the umbrella of something that we all love. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is I love the unifying aspect of whiskey, and really looking forward to doing this.
So, as the name below me says, I'm Bianca Espinoza, also known as the Scotch Girl, not just a Scotch Girl, I'm just kidding. So what I do is I co-host and co-founded a whiskey society in Miami, Florida. And with my partner, Scotch Society 305, we kind of help create fun networking events. Normally they're in person. So with everything going on in the world and the pandemic and everything, we're doing more virtual tastings, and they're just great ways to meet everyone. I love connecting with people, and especially helping women, millennials, and people who are intimidated by drinking whiskey to really see that it's something that's fun, it's approachable, and hopefully make it their go-to drink.
Hello, I'm Corayo Zimmer, better known as the Whiskey Monster in the US. My whiskey journey started in Turkey, rooted in Europe, and right now it's still continuing in the USA, spreading the word of whiskey to a lot of people through different styles of whiskey, writing about whiskey on my blog whiskeymonster.com, and sharing my knowledge and most importantly the passion to a lot of people in this part of the world and throughout the social media to every part of the world. So I hope you will enjoy our session today that I had with great people, with Josh Peters and Bianca Espinoza together. You will enjoy our whiskey tasting with a great whiskey Octomore.
Everyone. Hey everyone. The three of us are here together to go over a tasting of Octomore's 11 series. As some of you may know, Octomore is part of the Brooklotic Distillery in Islay. And I'm Bianca Espinoza. I'm here with Karai and Josh. And each of us are going to cover a little bit about the information behind the Octomore 11 series before we actually do the full tasting. So Josh, talk a little bit about ppm, please.
Sure, happy to. So ppm refers to peat. And if you're not familiar with what peat is basically, it's a bunch of desiccated plant matter that's been compressed over time. And then the distilleries, what they'll do in order to assist in the malting process, they'll dig some of it up out of the ground in these big bricks, and then they'll set it on fire and use the smoke to slow the malting process. And if you're a little curious what that means, so to make malt, you take barley, you get it wet, and it'll begin to get to that sprouting part. That's the malting process. To stop that, you either have to blow hot air across it, or you can blow smoke across it. And that's the same thing. It's going to stop that malting process. So Brooklotic, they go ahead and use the peat, it goes across it, but they let it go in as potent and as powerful as they can. Some of your other distilleries that you might be familiar with, like Lafroig and Ardbeg, like their whiskeys come in right around 40 to 50 ppm is kind of the standard across Islay, and that is ppm stands for parts per million. Whereas the Brooklotic, for Octomore, at least the 11 series, They go from as low as 139.6 for the 11.1, all the way up to 208 for the 10-year. And we're going to be tasting through all of these, and 8 minutes at a time. So it should be fun. Karai, do you have something you want to add?
Well, thank you all. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about what are the codes mean, what's Octomore, like how it came out, and we will go back to 2002 from a sentence that actually I like a lot. What if we do this? What if we create a heavily peated, like incredibly peated whiskey? And that's how Octomore was born. So in 2002, they came up with this idea, and in 2008, they released the first Octomore, which was a 5-year-old whiskey at 63.5% ABV, and which was at 131 ppm of peat level, which was incredibly high at the day. I can remember everybody's excitement over the day. So it has been 11 years. So we are here to introduce you the Octomore 11 series and the Octomore 10-year-old. And I just want to talk a little bit about the coding system, because Octomore comes with codes like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 10-year-old. So Octomore 0.1, which is 11.1 in today's topic, it's distilled from 100% Scottish mainland barley and matured predominantly in American bourbon or whiskey casks. The Octomore 0.2 is distilled from, again, 100% Scottish mainland barley with a focus on European cask influence like wine, cognac casks. However, these are travel retail, so it's not going to be for sale in the US. The Octomore 0.3 is coming from Octomore Farm. The barley is coming from the Octomore Farm. It's a single estate release, single farm or single field. This is the Octomore of Octomore. So it's 100% Islay grown barley. It's matured in a combination of American and European oak. The Octomore 0.4 is distilled from 100% Scottish mainland barley with a focus on virgin oak, but we don't have it this year. Instead, we have another whiskey, which is aged for 10 years, which is the Octomore 10 years. With no such much set maturation profile generally. It's just an alternate to 0.4. We will talk more about when we are tasting the whiskey. So we'll go ahead and start the 8-minute tasting for each of the whiskeys right now, starting with Octomore 11.1, then Octomore 11.3, and we'll finish with the 10-year-old. What we're gonna do is we'll just pour our glasses, smell it. Every minute will give us another layer of richness, another layer of flavors, and we'll share it with you. And for every 8 minutes, we'll just share our nose with you.
We're going to start off with the 11.1, which is 100% aged in first fill American oak, which comes from Jim Beam, Heaven Hill, and Jack Daniels barrels. And yeah, I'm going to give this a pour.
So we start at the 8 minutes, I guess, huh?
And we'll get started with the 8 minutes right now. There we go.
Okay, let's go. This will be fun. What are your first impressions, guys?
My first impression is, I mean, you get that minerality that you only ever get in young whiskeys. It's not like that unintegrated, spirity, semi-woody, wood cardboardy type thing, but like specifically in Islas, I've noticed anytime I taste a really young Islay, doesn't matter if it's Kilchoman or Lafroig or Kalila, you get this minerality to it that's kind of refreshing, and that's my first impression. Is I get that minerality, that mineral punch to it.
I get that too. One of the things that honestly, I'm kind of new to very heavily peated and whiskeys. Even though I enjoy them, I sometimes get intimidated, but this one doesn't give you that. When you find out that it's 139.6 ppm, you think, wow, that's gonna really have, this intense nose of like either it's medicine-y or smoky. And it's not the case at all. It's actually, like for me, I get very like a fresh squeezed melon or something like just something a little bit light citrusy at the back end. That's what I get.
Got it.
Maybe
Like-
that melon has been washed off with some of that minerality.
when I was reading about the whiskey, like as I told you before, I just went back to 2008 because the values for the 11.1 is really close to 1.1 because 1.1 was at 131 ppm, around, I think it was around 61.4 percent ABV. Like this is 139.6 ppm and at 59.4 percent ABV. So this is pretty close to that original, the first ever Octomore, which was heavily peated and which created the excitement for every one of us, the whiskey enthusiasts. But like the first things that crushed to my mind is that malty sweetness coming to the note with honey and a little bit heather. So, sweet peat smoke. It's not as overly aggressive as Bianca told. That's good, Leia. Like, again, it's not that extra heavy. It's just the balance is there. We are in our 3rd minute right now. We are almost done with the 3rd minute. And I can see some new aromas coming out too.
Yeah.
It's getting like those honey notes, those vanilla notes, a little bit of toffee, but it's also a little farmy. Like you get that like kind of like more earthy style of malt coming up. I get like very light farmy notes, not heavy farmy like you can get in like some of the space sides, but like just like a little bit.
I think I can see what you're saying. Like I get some that earth after rain profile, the damp
Kind of,
earth. Kind of that fresh nose that's coming
I
up.
felt it like back here at the end, like at the end of that nosing experience. That's where
Well, I will start the palate tasting at 4 minutes, so we are almost there with 30 seconds left. The nose is just developing so nice. Citrus just came up right now.
I like that you said that it develops because it really does. It is developing a lot for me. You smell. Now to me, it's getting a little bit stronger. If I'm being honest, the more that I nose it.
I agree. I actually didn't on first impression, like I actually didn't get any real smoke. Like it didn't actually come through, or at least it didn't process. Maybe it was just so much that my senses were like, no, I don't want it to. But like now it's the smoke bouquet is just so much more prevalent. It's so much more, it's like a little bit barbecuey, like barbecued meat a little bit.
What do you say for the palate? Like what do you feel in your mouth? It's just, it's so juicy is the first word I could say.
Juicy. I get like kind of charred dessert notes, like a creme brulee or like bananas Foster type of like sweetened, like fruitiness, but also a little bit of charred notes with the sugar in there. Like that's what I'm kind of getting more out of there, but definitely like little fruit notes in there that I'm really enjoying.
I'm getting like those charred notes with the oak spices at the same time, which is a joy for me.
Yeah.
Like, I do enjoy it.
I really like how it's really more balanced than what I expected. Something with this high ppm. I think that what I like the most about it is not so much. It was very, to me, like a light citrusy in the nose, but when I when I taste it, it feels more like I'm chewing on like this fresh, I don't know how to explain it, like, and I like it, like fresh, like light bacon, I would say, but very mild.
Like the finish right now is just, the finish is so creamy and I can actually feel the barley again at the very back. With like a phenolic feeling at the very back of my palate, I can feel that barley is going, that malt sweetness is going down, which is something I really like. It's a long finish, and honestly, 139.6 ppm. It's not that intimidating here.
So the ABV is 59.4. And one of the things I like to taste, try is whenever I try whiskeys, I like to see how also not just my palate, I also like to see on the lips, is it too spicy? How does that impact also my experience? And it's not. It's very non-intimidating in that sense. It's just smooth.
I'm at the point of adding some water because we are in the last 90 seconds.
All right. Oh.
This was
Excuse me,
fast.
I
Like
need water.
I feel like I need more time.
I
This is
know.
the
8 minutes is going by kind of faster than I thought it was going to
yeah,
go.
really fast. Okay, the water brings up a lot of citrus to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
More fruit. Oh my gosh, for sure. More fruit and more char, I would say.
And there is more like cooked fruits that's coming to my nose, like cooked pears.
Pears, like a grilled pear.
You know, if you ever did like a jam.
I get the jam for sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting more like vanilla and honey candy, like homemade honey candy, like that. Like this is taking me back to Christmas with my parents making honey candy on Christmas Eve. Like that's what I'm
And the
getting.
palate is so
If
well
I
rounded right now.
Cigar and drink whiskey.
Okay, let's put in this last 25 seconds. Go, Bianca.
So actually, I like what the water did to it, but I prefer it without the water. I think this is one that I like the experience just pure.
Josh?
You know, I like it. I'm going to take the opposite stance. I like it just a tiny bit. I'm getting more of the delicate notes now, those kind of more dessert style, but it's not an intimidating whiskey to drink neat either. Like it's such an easy selling whiskey.
Okay,
For
you
sure.
heard the noise of the last 8. The 8 minutes is done. My idea is like I like it both neat and with water, but water adds it a little bit more rounder profile, especially on the palate, and it opens up to some delicate notes, as just said. So this was 11.1, folks. We'll continue with 11.3 just after a small break. Well, hello again. We just did the tasting, 8-minute tasting for 11.1, and we're going to 11.3 right now. So 11.3 comes with like a different bottle design, lighter colored bottle design, and full-term maturation happens in first fill American cask from Jim Beam, Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace, and Jack Daniels. It's matured entirely on Islay for 5 years, and it's distilled in 2014 from the 2013 harvest of 100% Octomore farm-grown concerto barley, which is really important. That's why it's called the Octomore of Octomore. It's malted to 194 ppm, which is very high, and it's bottled at 61.7% ABV. So there is no chilled filtration in any of the Octomores we are trying today, and there is no coloring. And this particular bottle is limited to 18,000 bottles, so good hunting. And let's start tasting.
I'm excited.
I just started the timer. This is different.
Totally different. I feel
So
like
we are
this one's a
talking.
little in the nose.
Can you repeat that, Bianca?
Oh, sorry. So I feel like this one is a little bit lighter on the nose than 11.1. And to me, I actually start with that minerality that Josh was talking about for the 11.1. Actually, that's the first thing where that's like, that hits my nose versus I'm not getting that much fruit. I'm getting more floral.
I'm getting a lot of floral notes. I'm getting like
floral notes.
I'm getting a lot of fragrant character from this whiskey, but at the same time, I'm having this minerality that Josh was talking about.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like the peat is not like we are talking about 194. It's not there. It's like it's subtle. On the nose.
To me, it's blowing my mind, to be honest with you, because again, I see this 194 ppm. I'm thinking, wow, it's gonna like punch you in the face when you nose it. Not the case.
No, I get a little bit of on the nose, like buttercream frosting, like that level of sweetness, not like fruit sweetness, but like a buttercream frosting kind of more of a sugared. That's how, I mean, that's how it's coming across to me, is that like buttercream frosting.
I'm actually getting like a gardenia after it's rained at the end. So for me, I'm still stuck on the floral, but maybe I need to nose a little bit longer. I have like a watery flower, like that scent. All right.
Okay, the
And
palette
what I
is a
love about it is
little,
also the color is very.
the palette is a little bit, I think, less intense in means of texture. It's not that creamy as 11.1. It's a little lighter in texture, but it feels like there's an explosion of stone fruits in my mouth. It's like there's a definite dryness at the very back coming from the spices. And I can feel like stone fruits are just in the middle, dissolving around. There was like malty notes coming. It's really nice. And those malty notes are feeling a bit like dusty. You know what I mean?
Like that dry, almost like that dusty kind of dry sweetness. I always think of like, you know, when you go to like tourist towns, they have those old timey candy shops, and they've got like the like that like pink whatever candy that's on the roll, and you taste it, and it just has that like that. It's almost like powdered sugar, but like not powdered sugar type of.
Yeah.
It's like that, like that old timey candy kind of a thing. You get that dry.
Josh, what's the time you have over there? My timer can be a little bit.
4 minutes. We are 4.5 minutes.
Okay, nice.
Left. So 4.5 minutes.
To me, the first thing that I get when I taste it is just how spicy it is. So I feel like there's a lot more, I don't know, I don't want to say cinnamon or maybe cardamom or something like allspice. Actually, allspice is really what I'm getting when I taste it. And it's weird when, like Karai was saying, that it's a lot more drier, and like the top of the roof of my mouth just became instantly dry. At least when I tasted it, which was kind of took me far. I'm actually thirsty now.
The finish is just amazing. I feel like I feel a lot of chocolate and tobacco bitters.
Yeah.
Tobacco bitters, yes.
It's the finish for me gets really dry. It's like that. Yeah. Like tannic, like oversteeped tea type of like tannic dryness.
It's dry and warm. There's a good warmth.
I mean, I feel that all over my body. I don't know, like I just feel that warmth, which is wild to me. This is like a really interesting experience because at first, instead of starting on the tip of my tongue, it starts like right on the roof of my, at least for me, the roof of my mouth, and then I felt it in the tip of my tongue, and now I feel like, wow, that this like, I don't know, that heat and that dryness really takes over you, but in a good way. It's like a whole experience without being overwhelming. And then again, it tastes to me a little bit opposite from how it knows. Like it's like there's a very gentle entrance in the nose, and then when you taste it, it's like a whole other experience.
Do you feel like sourdough feeling coming from the nose after some time?
Sourdough?
Or is it just because I made some bread 2 days ago?
It might be your bread. I'm so for me, I'm now getting far more floral. Like I'm starting to get little bits of like lavender notes, little bits of those like, you know, kind of more like wet floral. Like I'm starting to get those. Like those are starting to open up for me. I'm getting a little bit less of the dessert notes. But
I'm gonna add some water to this beauty.
Okay.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, I guess.
Going to the floral notes, what I love about this one, since it's all made in the Octomore farm, is I think maybe the terroir and everything that they use for it, and that's, I mean, everything, the whole process, that's definitely something that to me, I feel like why we taste all those more earthy notes.
But you know, at the same time, this is what Bruglader stands for, you know?
Yeah.
It's transparency, being from Islay, which is really important. Yes. And I can see the distinction from 11.1 to 11.3. The difference is the peat, ABV, and barley itself. But you know, the ppm, the peat doesn't give us that much. But anyway, let's see after what. Oh,
I mean, you really can't. The human senses are too dull to really notice like that. You know, a 130 versus a 190. Like you got to go like increments of hundreds up to thousands before we're like, oh, I notice a huge difference. But like, you know, on the lower end, like if you're talking about something that's like 12 ppm and like a 40, you can definitely tell. But when you get into these higher ones, it's kind of too phenolic for your senses. It just overwhelms. But
water brought out some like vanilla ice cream for me.
I'm getting that. I'm right back where I started with that buttercream frosting. Like I'm getting even more of it with the water. Like those.
Yeah. I can see that.
I really like water going to this one. I think it helped open it up a lot and just created like a whole different persona or characters. It brought out a lot of different personalities of this whiskey that I wasn't expecting. And I taste a lot more. That floral changed to more sweeter notes, and that spiciness is a lot less mild.
Well, what are your last thoughts, Josh?
I would like water.
Add water on this. That's good. Josh, what do you say?
I like this with water, with a little bit of water. It's kind of, I don't know, I'm getting like these like French bakery notes.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like
okay,
that's kind of like that whole array of like fresh pastries and like, yeah, that's kind of what this is like. If I could wrap it up in one thing, I'd say French bakery, like that.
Honestly, when I first tasted it, I love those dusty malty notes, but at the end, I love that finish with chocolate and tobacco. But after adding water, like it's just cream pâtissière. It's like brioche, as Josh just mentioned, like French bakery notes, and some vanilla ice cream filling. I love that. So 11.3 is great, incredible. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So the next tasting we're going to do, last but not least, is the 10-year. So this is 11 series, similar to the process that I've done in the series before, except for instead of being 11.4, in alternate years, they switch, Octomore switches. So instead of being 11.4, it's Octomore 10-year. The one difference, if you can't tell by the name, is that instead of being aged 5 years, like the other two that we just tasted, it's aged for 10 years. Some of the processes that are taken into this, it's a combination of virgin oak and first fill and second fill American cask. It's the same cask used as 11.3, which are Jim Beam, Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace, and Jack Daniel's cask, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm excited to kind of, now that I'm doing this this tasting side by side to see how it differs. It's matured in Islay cask in Islay for 10 years, and it was distilled in 2009 from 2008 Optic barley, which this one is different from the other two whiskeys that we tried earlier. So this one is the highest ppm at 208 ppm. However, it's the lowest ABV at 54.3. One of the fun facts that I loved was when we had the opportunity to speak with Adam Hannett. I asked him, so of the four releases in this series, which one was the one that surprised him the most? And I didn't ask him for his favorite, just the one that kind of made him think the most and kind of throughout this process. And he said it was this one, the 10-year. And the reason why is because he, based on what he tasted in the processes and everything, it kind of sparked something in him to say, hey, maybe this is how the new future of Octomore could go. So I'm really interested to see how and why, based on how it tastes, to see if maybe Octomore will start changing from 5 years, they're aging, to 10 years, or maybe older, or maybe something in the middle. Maybe it's going to be a 7. So yeah, let's start the tasting.
Okay, timer starts right now. Let's go.
All right.
So another 8 minutes.
This one's smokier for me than the other two.
I feel more like toasted oak coming.
Yeah.
I get a lot of orchard fruits right off the
Apricots?
bat.
I got apricots.
Apricots.
I get a little stuck in.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
my first.
for me, maybe it's the virgin oak that I smell, but for me, that's really taking over at least the nosing experience compared to the other two that we tasted.
Could be, yeah.
I get like that feeling when I put like a cornflakes, like cereal with milk and honey, mix them together, then you get the taste of it. I feel that.
Like damp cereal. Like
Yeah. Or I'm hungry. I don't know. Definitely some roasted like red peppers coming inside.
Has
for
a
me, this
feeling.
one.
Go
Ooh.
ahead.
Oh, for me, this one is just very rain forward. To me now, after I went past that smoky, charred, toasted notes that I was nosing. This right now it smells like it's like raining really strong, and you're just out there. You're actually dancing in the rain. Like that's what I feel like you're under that water right now.
What I'm feeling like, it started as really sweet with the orchard fruits. However, now it's centered to my nose. It's coming like flumes of peat smoke.
Yeah.
A bit earthy.
Yeah, definitely getting a lot more of the peat and the smoke and those
Yeah.
earthy tones, dirt after rain, like, or those earthier notes are starting to really come through. So on the finish, I'm getting kind of like
I haven't tasted it yet. I'm excited.
like a menthol, like a minty mentholy thing on the finish.
I actually got it like right from the start, not even the finish. Because I accidentally I did something I never do, which I tasted it with a lot with my lips, and then that was really menthol.
Yeah,
It's like
a
menthol cigarette.
It's like,
I wasn't expecting.
it's like a mint chocolate feeling,
mint chocolate chip. Yeah,
There was like the,
Let me try it
there's
again.
like the definite sweetness coming from like caramel, vanilla, honey sweetness, and the chocolate, it's with a lot of menthol on it.
I can taste this. Reminds me of chocolate chip mint. Mm-hmm.
Get the chocolate in there. Yeah. I don't know, this one feels very different on the palate than the others, whereas like the 11.1 was a little bit oily. The 11.3 was a little dry. This is like almost effervescent. Like it has like kind of a prickliness to it.
I agree with that.
Something I did. I'm sorry, Josh. I keep interrupting. Something I just did is I blew out some from my nose, and I actually got a very like seashell. I don't know how to explain it, like maybe mussels type here in the bridge of my nose. When I was exhaling from my nose, I got more like seafood, shellfish. That's the word. I got more of that. Fresh when I was exhaling. So I got like more of oysters that can make which I didn't get so much of that like retro scent or smell so much.
Retro nasal effect.
Yeah.
I feel like maritime impact a little bit, but it always starts really on the sweeter tones for me. Then it develops into something a little bit like more pickly or a little bit more salty, if you want to put it that way.
It is salty. This one is blowing my mind because it's such a different experience.
It is.
This is interesting. This is the outlier in the group, I guess. That's we didn't expect.
Absolutely.
It's also just lovely. Just like, I just give it one word: lovely.
It's joyful.
Yeah. I mean, it has some of that like crisp austerity to it, but it's sweet.
The thing is,
it could be psychosomatic, but now that it's opening up, I do get a little bit more of those coastal notes. Now that it's like one of those things of like to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel it really distinctly, especially on the nose. You feel like those a little bit maritime aromas. However, what I can say right now is the finish is not finishing.
It's still going.
So long.
Yeah.
It's still there. Like I got my last sip a minute ago because I'm keeping an eye on the clock too. So we are at the last 2 minutes, 30 seconds, guys.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is a whiskey you'll taste the next day.
I think definitely stays here a lot for sure. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I remember
And
Adam saying that this is all about time. Like, so this whiskey, this 10-year-old, is all about time. I think it's all about time, and I do agree that the 8 minutes is not going to be enough for us to taste this.
Absolutely.
I think we could have done like 16 minutes for each of these, especially this one, and we'd still have stuff to talk about.
We can do a retake as long as you're good.
I really like legs, even though we haven't talked about the other two that much. This one, I like how the legs fall in my glass, at least. A lot more oily.
Time to add water.
That's some water.
This is like lower in ABV, but it's like 54.3% ABV, so it's still not low. We cannot call it low. Lower than the others.
It is the lowest. I thought that was kind of peculiar and interesting. The highest age, most age, largest ppm, but lowest ABV. I had a little bit more because I was already done with my sip.
I think what happens here, I get more header in the nose.
Let's see.
A bit more that vegetal qualities.
I get more fruit, like more citrus.
I'm getting a little bit more of the malt profile, like that.
That's awesome.
Earthy, sweet cereal grain maltiness.
Yeah, sweetness is just opening up for sure.
So
the palate,
fruit on the palate.
The fruit on the palate.
That's a lot more fruit.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And actually all the cereal that you two were talking about, I actually now taste it finally. Before, which was that rain, I was dancing in that rain, I was stuck there. Now I actually taste the cereal. Like,
danced in the rain, you came in for some a nice bullet cereal afterwards.
Okay, let's have the verdict. Bianca, last words on this whiskey.
So water, add water. And it'll take you in a different journey than the other two for sure.
What do you say, Josh?
I agree with Bianca. I like this with a little bit of water to it. I think it opens up some beautiful layers it was a lovely whiskey before, and then it just opened up these other layers that are a little more subtle and more playful. Like I like it with a little bit of water in there.
I agree with you both. Like the whiskey turned out to be really, creamy, fruity after adding water. But what I liked before water was the length of the finish. That length was amazing. It got a little bit shortened after the water, in my opinion. But adding water added so many layers in the palate. That's something I really liked.
Yeah.
Well, end of tasting, unfortunately. Thank you for all joining us. This was really fun. What do you think, Josh?
This was a lot of fun. I wish there was more whiskey. I don't want this to end. I'm enjoying this.
Bianca, any words?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I wish that I had more time to go through this tasting. Honestly, in my opinion, as I think Karai mentioned, this is one of those whiskeys that you really need to take your time with and explore, because it's not just a quick sip and a quick dram that you're going to have. It's something that you want to see how it develops, and it's very curious. And for me, that it's even though I've had Octomore before, it's kind of new still. I was pleasantly surprised to see how each of them kind of varied from each other and how each of them developed the more and more we taste, even before adding water or not. Just smelling it neat, with time, it did develop. Adding the water, different story they each told.